The year was 1968. A new spirit of resistance was sweeping across America. In Minneapolis, Minnesota, a group of young Native Americans came together. They were tired of the poverty, discrimination, and injustice faced by their people. They called themselves the American Indian Movement, or AIM. The founders of AIM were determined to fight for their rights. They wanted to improve the lives of Native Americans. Leaders like Dennis Banks, George Mitchell, and Clyde Belcourt emerged. They became powerful voices for change. AIM's message was clear. Native Americans would no longer be silent. They would fight for their rights, their land, and their culture. They would demand to be heard. For centuries, Native Americans had endured broken promises and systematic oppression. The United States government had taken their land, violated treaties, and attempted to erase their culture. Native Americans were treated as second-class citizens in their own land. Poverty was rampant on reservations. Healthcare was inadequate. Educational opportunities were limited. Discrimination was widespread. Native Americans faced prejudice in housing, employment, and education. The civil rights movement of the 1960s inspired many Native Americans. They saw that change was possible. They realized that they too could raise their voices and demand justice. AIM emerged from this climate of activism and determination. In November 1969, a group of Native American activists occupied Alcatraz Island. This bold move was not just a spontaneous act of defiance, but a well-planned effort to reclaim a piece of land that held significant historical and cultural meaning. The activists saw Alcatraz as a symbol of the injustices faced by Native Americans, and they aimed to bring attention to their struggles and demands for sovereignty. The former prison island in San Francisco Bay became a powerful symbol of resistance. The occupation was a direct challenge to the U.S. government's policies and treatment of Native American tribes. It was a call to action, urging the nation to recognize the rights and dignity of its indigenous peoples. The activists, known as the Indians of all tribes, claimed the island by right of discovery. They argued that, according to the Treaty of Fort Laramie, any unused federal land should be returned to Native American control. This legal and moral claim was a cornerstone of their occupation. The occupation of Alcatraz lasted for 19 months. During this time, the activists established a community on the island, complete with schools, a clinic, and cultural programs. They aimed to create a self-sustaining society that reflected their values and traditions. It captured the attention of the nation and brought the plight of Native Americans into the spotlight. Media coverage of the occupation was extensive, and it sparked a national conversation about the rights and treatment of Native American communities. The activists demanded that the island be returned to Native American control. They envisioned transforming Alcatraz into a cultural center that would serve as a beacon of hope and education for all Native American tribes. They envisioned it as a center for education and cultural revival. The plans included establishing a university, a museum, and a spiritual center, all aimed at preserving and promoting Native American heritage and knowledge. Although the activists' demands were not fully met, the occupation of Alcatraz was a turning point. It marked a significant moment in the history of Native American activism, demonstrating the power of unity and resilience. It showed the world that Native Americans were willing to fight for their rights. The occupation inspired other protests and movements, highlighting the ongoing struggle for justice and equality. It inspired a new generation of activists, and helped to galvanize the Red Power movement. The legacy of the Alcatraz occupation lives on, reminding us of the enduring spirit and determination of Native American communities in their fight for recognition and rights. In the fall of 1972, the American Indian Movement, or AIM, organized a significant protest march on Washington, D.C. This event was a pivotal moment in the struggle for Native American rights and recognition. They called it the Trail of Broken Treaties, a name that symbolized the long history of broken promises and treaties made by the U.S. government with Native American tribes. Hundreds of Native Americans from across the country traveled to the nation's capital, many of them journeying long distances by bus, car, and even on foot. They came from reservations and urban areas alike, united in their cause. They came to present a list of grievances to the federal government, highlighting the injustices and neglect they had faced for generations. Their demands were clear and urgent. The protesters occupied the Bureau of Indian Affairs building, a bold move that underscored their determination and frustration. This occupation was not just a protest, but a call for immediate action. They held it for 6 days, during which time they issued statements and negotiated with government officials. The occupation drew significant media attention and public interest. They demanded that the government honor its treaty obligations, which had been ignored or violated for far too long. These treaties were not just historical documents but living promises that needed to be fulfilled. They presented a 20-point proposal for improving the lives of Native Americans, addressing issues such as housing, education, and healthcare. This proposal was a comprehensive plan for change. The trail of broken treaties was a powerful demonstration of Native American solidarity and resilience. It showed the strength and unity of the Native American community in the face of adversity. It brought national attention to the issues facing Native Americans, forcing the public and the government to confront these long-standing problems. The media coverage helped to amplify their voices and their message. Although the government's immediate response was slow, the march helped to set the stage for future reforms. It was a catalyst for change, inspiring subsequent movements and actions aimed at securing justice and equality for Native Americans. Section 5. Wounded Knee, a stand for sovereignty. In February 1973, AIM members and supporters occupied the village of Wounded Knee on the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota. This bold move was not just a spontaneous act of defiance but a carefully planned protest. The American Indian Movement, or AIM, had been growing in strength and numbers, advocating for the rights and sovereignty of Native American people across the United States. The occupation was a protest against the corrupt tribal government. The local tribal leadership, accused of widespread corruption and abuse of power, had lost the trust of the people. AIM's occupation was a direct challenge to this authority, demanding accountability and change. It was also a stand for Native American sovereignty. The protesters sought to reclaim their rights and assert their identity, emphasizing the importance of self-determination and cultural preservation. This was not just a local issue but a national one, resonating with Native American communities across the country. The occupation of Wounded Knee lasted for 71 days. During this time, the occupiers faced harsh conditions, including limited supplies and constant threats. Yet, they remained resolute, turning the village into a symbol of resistance and hope. It resulted in a tense standoff with federal authorities. The U.S. government responded with a heavy hand, sending in federal marshals, FBI agents, and military personnel. The standoff was marked by intense negotiations, sporadic gunfire, and a media frenzy that brought national attention to the plight of Native Americans. Gunfire was exchanged, and 2 Native Americans were killed. The loss of life underscored the high stakes of the protest and the deep-seated tensions between Native American communities and the federal government. The events at Wounded Knee shocked the nation. News outlets across the country covered the story extensively, bringing the struggles of Native Americans into the living rooms of millions of Americans. Public opinion was divided, with some supporting the protesters' cause and others condemning the occupation. The Wounded Knee incident, though tragic, brought the issue of Native American self-determination to the forefront. It sparked a broader conversation about the rights of indigenous peoples and the need for systemic change. It highlighted the ongoing struggles faced by Native Americans in their fight for justice and autonomy. The legacy of Wounded Knee continues to inspire activists and remains a powerful reminder of the enduring quest for sovereignty and equality. Section 6. Echoes of AIM, the movement's lasting impact. The American Indian Movement had a profound impact on American society. It raised awareness about the injustices faced by Native Americans. It led to legal and social reforms that improved the lives of many. AIM's activism helped to bring about the passage of the Indian Self-Determination and Education Assistance Act of 1975. This landmark legislation gave Native American tribes greater control over their own affairs. It paved the way for improvements in education, healthcare, and economic development. AIM's legacy extends beyond legislation. It inspired a generation of Native Americans to embrace their heritage. It led to a resurgence of Native American pride and cultural awareness. Section 7. The struggle continues. AIM's legacy today. Today, the American Indian Movement continues to advocate for the rights of Native Americans. While the organization's structure has evolved, its commitment to justice and sovereignty remains strong. Native Americans still face significant challenges. Poverty, unemployment, and health disparities persist in many communities. The fight for environmental justice and protection of sacred sites is ongoing. AIM's legacy is carried on by new generations of activists. They are working to address these challenges and create a better future for Native American communities. Section 8. Unfinished Business: The Future of Indigenous Rights. The fight for Native American rights is far from over. There is still much work to be done to achieve true equality and justice. It is essential to honor the treaties and respect the sovereignty of Native American nations. It is crucial to support Native American self-determination and economic development. It is vital to protect Native American cultures, languages, and sacred sites. The future of Native America depends on continued activism, education, and